Recording live from the ARC studios, welcome to the Sustainability Podcast. Our goal is to provide engaging discussions on a broad range of topics regarding cybersecurity, sustainability, supply chain management, plus much more. For more information and to get into contact with us, visit us at arcweb.com.
Welcome to the Sustainability Podcast. I'm Jim Frazier, Vice President of Smart Cities here at ARC Advisory Group. And today I'm very excited to be joined by Ravi Srinivasan, Vice President, General Manager of Emissions Reduction Leader for Industrials at Honeywell. Welcome, Ravi.
Hi, Jim. How are you doing today?
Great to see you again.
Absolutely. Same here.
Let's jump right in. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your role, and the ecosystem in which you reside?
Yeah, absolutely. Jim, I've been in the oil and gas industry for the last 30 plus years. After my undergrad, I joined Honeywell, and I've been in the automation and industry, also working closely with the customers, driving outcome that enables them to improve the profitability, the business operations, and so on and so forth. I lived in different countries. This is actually my 8th country that I'm working and living. And it's got a very good wide experience and also different cultures, getting exposed to different types of customers as well, and their challenges and how do we go about addressing their challenges as well. Since last year, there's a lot of push towards sustainability. And a lot of customers are looking to improve their, emissions management and being more sustainable. So that kind of brought me to this role, as well as always look for challenges. What are the big challenges that can impact our customers? So in discussion with the leadership in Honeywell, they felt that this could be a great opportunity to help our customers, and also at the same time innovating new products and solutions within Honeywell that's not only used within Honeywell also, but externally as well. This kind of brought me to this role early last year. And since then, I've been quite focused on developing new products and solutions, really understanding what the needs of customers. A lot of solutions do exist, but what is fundamentally missing is a long-term view of the challenges that we have and how we can programmatically approach the customers, helping them in the journey. I always felt that this is not like one-off solution. If it is the solution to achieve net zeros or a carbon neutrality was so easy, people do it overnight. Probably by end of 23 or 24, they might say, hey, I'm already done. But since the customers, they get the goal for 2040, 2050, it means that it requires a substantial amount of time to get to the place we have to get there. And also you need to handhold the customers in this journey, correct? And that's where Honeywell comes in. And Honeywell is quite uniquely positioned from the perspective of the technology, the solutions, the products that we have. That actually kind of interested me to get this role and actually help the customers, and which is also very important for our planet itself and helping them to be more greener as well. So that kind of interested me a lot, and that's where I am right now.
Oh, that's great. For some of our audience, they may be wondering what exactly is emissions. What falls under that umbrella? So can you start just by describing, what is emissions and what is emissions management?
Yeah, absolutely. There are standard rules and definitions already exist in this place. We call it scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, which is predominantly, being referred to. Of course, there are newer scopes being talked about. And if you see the internet, you see the scope 4s as well. But primarily, we are focusing on the scope 1 and 2 and 3. But having said that, scope 1 is probably the most biggest one in terms of the emissions. Scope 1 is the direct emission that is coming out of the plant or your own operations, right? This includes combustion, the coming out of, say, boilers, furnaces. Then there's a fugitive emissions, there's a process venting, etc., right? So this is what any emissions arising out of your own operation, scope 1. Then we have the scope 2 emissions that's coming out of the indirect emissions from the purchased electricity or purchased steam, for example. Anything beyond this, which is the upstream or the downstream, like you buy something from someone else or you're selling something to someone else, the emission associated in the upstream side and the downstream side of the value chain is scope 3. But if you really go back in the fundamentals, the scope, if you're able to manage the scope 1 emissions, correct, you're able to address the reduction completely in the overall value chain. Scope 2 is someone else's scope 1 is scope 2 for someone else, correct? It's always it becomes part of the value chain. So our fundamental focus is more on scope 1. If I'm able to help the customers in reducing the emissions, right? So the emissions, the way I'm seeing it is that, let's take combustion, for example. We burn things or other, say, for example, the boilers, we have used natural gas as a fuel, for example. So as part of the process, how do you optimize the use of the gas? How do you ensure that the control is happening in a very tight fashion so that amount of energy being consumed is very optimal? So which means that energy and emissions are very related. Lower the energy consumption, lower the emissions. So just an example. So our main focus on scope 1, of course, along with that in helping the scope 2 and of course eventually the scope 3 as well. So that will help the customers to manage which suppliers they need to choose so that the overall at the end product, the carbon footprint of the product is the lowest for them.
Okay. Thanks for that. Before we talk about, I'm looking forward to talk about these repeatable solutions you have. But before we go there, what are the main application areas where Honeywell has an impact in this domain?
Yeah. If you look at the scope 1, I'm just looking at, say, combustion, for example, right? For combustion, it's all about how do you improve the overall combustion efficiencies for the plant. So we do have substantial amount of solutions around this in the process area where we have the ability to help the customers to run the plant more efficiently. Okay, that's one. So if you look at the flare, having a flare watch, for example, that also is solution that we have. The third thing is that just to give you a little bit of high level, I can always dive deep as you move forward, is also on the leak detection, correct? Especially the fugitive leaks. Methane is a big deal considering the global warming potential. Current mechanism that the customers follow is what we call periodic inspection. So they typically go around once a quarter or once in 6 months, depending upon their operating procedures, looking for leaks in the field. And what happens is that anything in between, most of the time it goes unnoticed. And when you do a lot of, leak emissions using emissions calculations and factors, you're actually not representing a right emissions in the plant. You may be under estimating or overestimating as well. So, but at the end of the day, if you really look at natural gas as a feedstock, if you're losing it, you're not actually converting to end product in a number of cases. So we're having a direct measurement, ability to track the leaks in real time, and ability to mitigate, it actually helps in the bottom line of the organization and at the same time, reducing the greenhouse gas emissions as well. So there are a lot of these solutions that we have. The industries that we serve actually cuts across all the process industries. Actually, if you really look, combustion is a combustion irrespective whether it's in oil and gas or it's in pharmaceutical. The boilers are boilers, right? So from that perspective, our applications are all very modular in structure, ability to use the same models from one industry to the other industry and so on and so forth. Also beyond industry, we also have solutions around the buildings where we do substantial amount of work on energy optimization in HVAC management, boiler controls and other things in the building. And also we extended that across to the flights as well, the flight efficiency. How do I take when the pilot is flying, which is the best route to get to the destination at the lowest energy consumption, right? So we kind of cut across multiple different industries, in the segment, to help our customers in energy reduction.
That's fascinating. I didn't expect such a breadth of industries there from flight to leak detection, let's say.
Yeah, that's right.
So what are the challenges that you're finding in deploying, these answers to these challenges that are out there? What are you facing? Yeah.
These challenges, the way I see it is that the adoption, correct? Because there's a lot of technologies are new in the picture, especially the detection devices. So a lot of people are testing out various technologies in the process. That's one. So it's just that once, I would call it's just more of a matter of time. Once people are comfortable, it will be moving from the pilots and the initial installations to a scale up, right? So considering that there is a lot of regulations come in, which is for the Inflation Reduction Act, so on and so forth, also the cross-border adjustment mechanism in the Europe, there's a lot of push towards reduction of emissions, and also a lot of commitments being made to, say, zero routine flaring, for example, right? Or reducing the methane content by X%. A lot of customers have made some bold decisions or bold commitments towards that. So the time that we have is probably limited. The way I see it, how quickly we can adopt and scale from the customer's perspective, and also supported by the technology companies such as Honeywell, I think is something that we should, I would consider as one of the challenges and opportunities as we move forward. The second part that I also see is the change management by itself, right? I always talk about that in terms of the change that needs to be done. Sustainability was always seen as a kind of it's more from push from various regulators, government agencies, and on so forth. And having said that, I think lots of companies, more and more companies, are embracing sustainability as part of their culture. The way I always compare that to safety, few decades ago, safety was seen as an add-on, but now it's become part of the culture. So nobody talks safety is part and parcel of the discussion these days. So very similarly, the sustainability is going to be part and parcel of the everyday discussion. How do I do more with less, right? I think that's what we see as an opportunity. We're heading in the direction. And once that becomes part of the discussion, I don't think they'll be talking about what is needed. I think that's the time that we'll achieve the scale that is needed and the speed and velocity that's needed to make it work and help the global warming as well.
So I'm intrigued by, one of your obstacles or challenges is the challenge of crossing the chasm from the pilot project to a large implementation. How do you surmount that? And are some of these solutions incremental so that as that incremental trust can build and someone can work to a full implementation? Or is it a scenario where someone needs to be a believer and be all in on day one?
Yeah. Okay. First and foremost, you got to have some amount of belief that this is going to work, correct? Of course, sure. That's how we do the pilot. Yeah. I mean, if there's no belief, I don't think we get to a pilot stage itself. We are doing a number of pilots across where customers are seeing very good results. First and foremost, of course, we got to drive outcomes. Any new technologies, this is like, people want to try it out. That's one part of that. So once that is, show the results that's coming in, correct, as expected. I mean, always there's a success criteria and success factors. Once we have those things very clearly defined, then it helps you in the next stage that, hey, this does meet the requirement they're looking for. Now the next point comes in, how do I scale this across the entire plant or multiple plants? Because a lot of customers got multiple plants globally. So that's going to play a part. So, I think having the right discussion. The second thing is that this is not about the traditional customer seller vendor relationship. This is about a lot of joint innovation and co-innovation as well. So as we are talking to customers, I'm working closely with a lot of customers. They're part and parcel of the game, right? They're part and parcel of the common issue that we are trying to solve. And sustainability is everything under the sun. I don't think there's one single company that's going to say, I've got everything in this world that I'm going to go solve your problem 100%, right? This is where we are actually engaging with a number of customers in terms of, okay, you have something new, something different. We're willing to jointly develop, co-develop, and create something that's quite unique and helps the customers and multitude of customers in the process as well. So it's a combination of engagement. It's a combination of, other things, obviously the funds, correct? But definitely there are a lot of funds being made available through various agencies and to support these kind of investments and pilots as well.
I'm also intrigued. Thank you for that. I'm also intrigued by your comment about change management. As you and I sit here, and many of us in the world we all work in, we're all engineers, and you always lead with technology. And you mentioned change management, and from an engineer's perspective, well, there's that well used saying that if my only tool is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But in change management this really is a digital transformation effort.
That's right.
And, there's three formal pillars there of digital transformation. And one is the technology that we probably spend too much time on. The second is the evolving or radically changed business process that's caused by applying that technology.
Yep.
And then the third and the hardest one from my perspective, and what most challenging one is, the people. They need to embrace and live and love this new reality. So, can you talk a little bit about those later pieces of digital transformation?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, technology is easy, correct? You can work that independently, but for every change that we do, the business process and people are very, very critical, right? So first and foremost, from the business process perspective, there is always a standard operating procedure that exists in that organization. This is what we have been doing for the last 10 years, 20 years. The system supports that. The minute you try to create a new element, we add a new element in, the business process has to change and or create the need that people start to follow the new processes. Okay, first of all, what's the impact it provides by the change? First of all, a lot of training competency becomes very, very important in this process. The business process and people, the way I see it, this goes hand in hand. It's like, it's like sometimes I see it's two sides of the coin. The people follow the business process, and sometimes the business process makes people to follow certain processes, correct? The way I see it. So, the way I see is that I'm going to combine these two into one as I speak through, Jim, is first and foremost is training. The competency and training is going to be very, very critical. Mm-hmm. And also, one of the things that we need to do, even within our organization, irrespective of sustainability, why are we doing this? I mean, we really want the people to be part and parcel of the journey. They need to understand what outcome we are trying to drive by doing this change. And the minute they understand the outcome that we are driving in terms of the global warming or in terms of making more sustainable product and creating a better future, not just for the planet, but also for the future generations, people will going to embrace the change. It takes time, but it requires constant messaging from the leadership and also it kind of walk the talk. Right? It's just not about telling other people. I mean, I always say, there's another background I always have. Sustainability starts with me. Right? It's not about number of times you said, what are you doing about sustainability? There are times I need to say, what am I doing about it? The minute I believe in that, then our action starts to demonstrate that I really am concerned about sustainability. I'm doing everything to impact, in a positive way for the organization or for, the people around us. So that starts from the leadership. I mean, like, for example, within Honeywell, there's a constant message that comes on in terms of what are we doing internally, how much are we doing in terms of reducing our energy, in emissions and so on and so forth. So that it kind of percolates down the organization. I would say that everybody in our organization talks about sustainability and then what they're doing to contribute. Creating those kind of a pool in terms of the system within the organization is going to make a lot of difference. It's very similar to safety, correct? The amount of signboards you see into the plant. I see in one of the plants, it's like 20 years ago when I was visiting one of the plant, we are safe until the first accident. Correct? It's a pretty catchy statements and slogans out there. And people take an extra effort on safety, right? And this is like a little bit towards a similar angle. It comes from the constant messaging from the customer, from the top management, and the impact. And also, as you see this transition towards the green premium from the commercial perspective, okay, that's going to make a lot of difference. The way we have this financial accounting system, correct? Similarly, a carbon accounting system would drive from the economic perspective. When they start to see the value of carbon in terms of a dollar, I think it will change a lot. So I think we're heading the direction. So one is from the financial perspective, other is from the people and the business process. They all go hand in hand eventually. So that's what I'm kind of thinking through in terms of where it's going to head. And change management, getting people competent, provide more training, constant messaging. Sometimes over communication is good in certain areas. I would recommend sustained is one of that. That should help us driving the right direction for us.
Well, that's a great start to our segment about how to overcome some of those challenges. I'd like to move on to perhaps those 4 vertical markets that you outlined earlier. We talked about some of the emissions challenges generally, about that there are emissions challenges across all 4. Can you walk us through each of those to talk about how you might have surmounted those challenges in these very different industries?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just start off the process industries first, correct? So the mechanism that we are approaching here is it's not about a point solution, correct? There are a lot of companies can offer you a piecemeal solution, provide a widget to do certain things. Mm-hmm. The whole approach that we have taken as an organization is a transformational journey. It's a digital transformation in a process sustainability, correct? So the whole idea is we kind of made that into 4 themes: measure, monitor, report, and reduce. This whole idea is about being a closed loop mechanism. It cannot be open loop. I provide you information, then you go figure it out. And the way we are taking is that, hey, I'm providing information, but I'm going to provide recommendation. I'm going to help you to mitigate as well. So that's a big deal in terms of having a closed loop where Honeywell as an organization, it's just not about technology. We have process licenses. We are a chemical manufacturing company as well. We have pretty unique knowledge which we bring into the industry. So that's going to be a very critical one in terms of looking at it. So the way we start off is this journey is probably common. The technologies or applications that apply to various industries could be a little different because the challenges are different in different parts of the segments. So if you look at the oil and gas, for example, just to give an example for this discussion, first of all, estimating the right baseline. Okay, the way I see it, currently, you look at any organization, they do provide reports. How much is the scope and emission? How much is scoped emissions? They do a lot of estimation. When I sit through with the customers, they do a lot of calculation based on factors, which is published by the authorities. Right. And there are a lot of spreadsheet that goes beyond that. Even with our own organization, we had done that for a while. It's some amount of feed that's coming in. I use the emission factor and say this is my emissions for the organization. But we also transition from that to understand if I to know on a periodic basis how much of emissions I'm generating, there's no way you're going to mitigate it. Unless you measure in real time, near real time, you cannot mitigate it. So the whole approach that we've taken is about measurement and direct measurement as much as possible. And also managing near real time is going to make the difference for the customer. It's like the way we run our plant, right? It's like if I don't know what's happening today, I can't mitigate that. So the whole software that we have generated is about making sure we actually understand what are the emission sources in the plant, which is nothing rocket science. But at the same time, comparing with what's the energy intensity, what is the methane intensity across the organization, providing real-time visualization dashboard, providing analytics that actually helps, okay, I'm not doing well at this part of the area of the plant. And what is causing that? Ability to drill down to that cause, the fault, correct? That will actually help the customers to figure out, okay, there's some actions that I need to do and what are the potential actions that I need to do. Creating a closed loop. Just give an example of just on the leaks itself. As I mentioned to you about LDAR, which is commonly followed mechanism, leak detection repair, where people go with sniffers in the plant once a quarter. And then I've seen in some plants, they said they go once around 6 months. So the day of the leaks don't happen, it's not constant with time. It depends upon various process conditions, right? Higher the pressure, leaks could happen. Lower the pressure, leaks may not necessarily, they come out. So if you go on a day where situation is ideal, you may come out, maybe the leaks are minimal, but the minute it comes out, operational condition could be very different. Right. So we are not actually representing ourselves with the true emissions that's happening in the plant. By having a direct measurement, it can actually help you to figure out, hey, I have an emission. I'm able to quantify where the source leak is coming from. I can generate a work order. I can close the loop by fixing the loop. In some of the instances where we've done, customers initially said, we are fine. We don't have leaks. Still, we install the sensors. Oh, okay, we can see it. But good thing, they send depending upon the threshold, they sent the technician, fixed it. Otherwise, you would have probably figured that out over the next few months, right? That's the kind of feedback that we got. That's one part of that. The second part is also having a fence line monitoring through our cameras for the gas cloud imaging cameras, having a 360-degree view of what's happening across the plant, ability to track and measure and monitor from a distance. what are the different types of leaks that's happening in the plant. So that also provides you, sometimes the bottoms up as a top-down reconciliation. Especially in oil and gas, areas. A lot of people are looking at OGMP, oil and gas methane partnership framework. Are we compliant to that? Helping in the direction as well. So the other one that we are also working on is what we call the marginal abatement cost curve. There are different ways to get to the destination. This is not like one direction. So there are multiple ways. Ability to understand, hey, if I do a specific action, what is the return on investment and what's the cost of that, correct? And what's the emission that I'm going to do? That provides an ability for the customers to say, okay, which are the low-hanging fruits that I need to take forward with before they go to the big ticket items. The leak detection, for example, they're all operational stuff that we work on. The second part of the operational efficiency comes as what we call energy efficiency. Energy efficiency can come in multiple pictures, as I mentioned to you. The emissions result of the way your process is behaving, right? The way the process is functioning and all this stuff. If you run the process more efficiently through advanced process control optimization, always we looked at from the perspective of production. Hey, I need to maximize my throughput in the plant, and that's how the APCs were always configured, understanding the constraints. Now, if you add the emissions also as one of the factors, you can start to balance that out. Okay, I am also looking at the overall energy intensity. How does it compare to emissions? Is it in line with what you're looking for? Do I need to do some trade-off here and manage somewhere else? What are the multiple leverages I have across a plant so that I'm still maintain my emissions or lower my emissions, but I'm able to have better throughput in the plant? That's one example. Other is asset performance. Like we have lots of big assets in the plant, compressors, boilers, turbines. How are the assets performing? Typically, if you notice, a lot of plants, when during the design stage, they have ideal conditions based on which they actually design these rotating equipments. But in real life, the ideal conditions and the operating conditions are very different. There's a lot of gap, right? In the pump, for example, the best efficiency point and the real one, this could be very different. So this one provides you these suggestions in terms of how we can run much better. One of our customer actually reduced emissions substantially by running the assets better. Yeah. At the end of the day, like you're reducing energy consumptions and so on and so forth. The third part is on the digital twin ability to predict what the emissions could happen. It's all about the way I love this point is the control before it happens, correct? If I know what's going to happen, I can possibly have better controls in place to help you reduce the emissions as well. So just kind of little examples around the operational efficiency. But as you move forward, this is not going to solve your entire net zero or carbon neutrality journey. You have to switch to, say, other types of fuels, the hydrogen transition, correct? That's going to be a big deal. So Honeywell has got technology around green hydrogen, helping our customers. The other part is carbon capture, right? We have this emissions coming out with the blue hydrogen. How do you segregate and sequester the carbon, either in underground, maybe re-inject back or in underground storage? So Honeywell provides complete technology around carbon capture, for the customers as well. We have a lot of install base, already. We already have more than 40 million metric ton per year of capacity installed already. And a lot of customers are actually working with Honeywell for the newer opportunities and projects as well. Then you moving forward a little bit on battery energy storage system. We have a lot of renewable supplies coming in, and they're intermittent. How do you balance that with the energy storage system that can feed in back when looking at the peak shaving, looking at the optimizing the overall energy consumption within the plant as well. We're also introducing flow batteries, which is for the longer term duration storage, which is even actually much, much lower energy consumption or emissions from that perspective. So that's another area that we are looking at as well. Then we also have introduced a lot of technology around eco-fining for sustainable aviation fuel. We already have lots of customers. We have more than 24 licenses, I think, globally in the space. And probably it's increasing on a regular basis. So if you really look at, there is a measure part, making sure we have the right measurement, monitoring on a real-time basis, providing predictive analytics for the customers to make more insightful decisions, and also correlating what causes the emission is very, very important, because that's how we can address the root cause. Then comes the operational efficiencies part, correct? These are all very typically NPV positive. There's a good ROI. These are low-hanging fruits. Then you move on to the fourth part, which is the energy transition piece. So from Honeywell's perspective, we have the technology, not only from the automation, software, we also have measurement, also process technologies that makes us quite unique in this industry. Along with that, the one thing that I always said is that this is journey. Honeywell has been working with customers for many, many years. And this is where we can actually help the customers for the next decade, 2 or 3, to help them to get to that end point as well.
Wow,
so this is more from the
Yeah, I mean, you focus there, and I understand your focus is industrials, but you also have mentioned buildings,
Yep.
Flights, aircraft. I know Honeywell has an active presence in the advanced metering infrastructure market as well.
That's right.
Can you talk about some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to the building automation, correct? I mean, Honeywell has been in the building business. If you really, Honeywell started with the thermostat, correct? I mean, way back in 1885. That's the time I think it's really started off with the thermostat, temperature control devices. So we got probably installed base probably around 1 million buildings globally in terms of various technologies or solutions being installed. There's a lot of point solutions or a combination of end-to-end solution. When it comes to the building automation, what we're looking at is energy optimization, correct? There is electricity being consumed in the building. They're all scope 2 predominantly because they source energy from outside. Of course, customers may think to go from the traditional energy source to a renewable source. That actually swings the scope emissions from one end to other end overnight, correct? That's one. But also a lot of the lighting, a lot of HVAC related stuff. There are a lot of people in the building, correct? How do you optimize the energy? So we have very similar to advanced process control optimization that I spoke about in the industrial space. We have what is called energy optimization. We have sustainability building manager. That's a solution that we call it in the building space. That actually helps the customers to figure out how do I need to operate my building more efficiently, right? So again, linking the energy to the dollar, the financial performance becomes very, very critical because many people are able to see that from a financial perspective, apart from the energy. I think it clicks, correct? Okay, I can do something better. So that's one of the examples in the building space, right? And also at the enterprise level, what we are doing is integrating the industrials and the buildings on the same dashboards. So if I go to a customer, they do have industrial plant, they have business jets, they also have buildings. How do you ensure that customers they see one unified single version of truth in emission systems or record for various activities? So our software at the top layer actually helps them to provide that unified view for our customers. So looking at the flight, I just talked about, when I go to the airlines industries, they've got a lot of scope 3, for example, for sure. But I'm not going to talk about scope 3 for today, but focusing more on scope 1, scope 2. The biggest thing they're looking at is that if I change from the jet fuel to sustainable aviation fuel, it swings a lot in terms of the emissions that they're doing. Yeah, that's what Honeywell provides for the airlines. Like, for example, last year or so, United did provide a paper. United Airlines are using sustainable aviation fuel from Honeywell technology in the flights. And they talked about some of the reduction that they're making in the process. That's one. Second, I talked about the flight efficiency. It's a kind of it's a software. I think probably quite a number of airlines are already subscribed to the particular software. Ability to provide the guidance in terms of which is the best route considering all the conditions for them to take so that they have the lowest energy consumption or lowest fuel consumption in the journey. I think that's a significant deal in terms of, emission reduction. Third part, if you look at, there are tank farms at the airlines facility, and there is a lot of buildings as well. So it's a combination of the buildings and other things that we do for the airline industry. So one is from the flight part of it itself. The second part is the assets that the airline industry own, whether they have, tank farms for the fuel. How do you ensure that the leakages are minimum? It's the process venting is minimum out there. How do we enable the airports to be more efficient so that all these things contribute in terms of reducing the energy consumption and improving the emissions performance as well?
Okay. That was fascinating and very much in detail. That was much appreciated. Let me ask you, we've covered a lot of ground and we're nearing the end of our time here. What are some of the key benefits for your internal and external clients? We've covered a lot of benefits here today, but what are the key ones that really stand out to you?
First and foremost, for me, the way I see internal Honeywell customers and the external internal Honeywell is more challenging and difficult. They're very demanding. So if I'm able to convince my internal customer like Mohammed, whom you spoke to a little bit earlier, I think I've done my job. So the way we look at it is that first and foremost, it's not a cost, right? The benefits, what our organization is seeing and also seeing a lot of customers saying, hey, that's a lot of low-hanging fruits out there. This could be profitable as well. This is about running the plant more efficiently, running the assets efficiently, reducing energy consumptions. It's a financial benefit they're seeing. So it's a how you run their plant more effectively and how you're driving a better ROI or a better bottom line is I think the big benefit that customers are seeing. The second thing, which is very critical, is beyond just the financial, is with installation of the hydrogen, the transitions and all the stuff we're looking at. I think we got to do something to preserve Mother Earth, correct? I mean, that's a longer term goal. As long as people, I do see a lot of people getting into that in the bandwagon of supporting that. I think the more and more people, we make it a norm. I think that could be a benefit for all of us for the future generation as well. So I do see financial benefits and in terms of being sustainable. Of course, I think once the economics become much more, conducive, a lot of newer technologies like green hydrogen will get adopted in a larger scale as we move forward.
As a senior leader with Honeywell in their sustainability effort, what recommendations can you make to other companies and individuals in the industry that might not be as far down this path?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I think creating a blueprint, I think is going to be very important. We as Honeywell started our journey way back in probably in the mid 2000s. Okay. And over the last 18, 20 years, we have reduced our greenhouse gas emission by 90%. We are committed to a 2035 carbon neutrality goal. We are very much in the journey. We are very much on track of doing the things, correct? So there are big ticket items we're working on in the industrial space and trying reducing the emissions in the certain chemical plants. But that's one thing. First and foremost is there should be a bold commitment from especially the people who are in the nascent stage. Okay, what do I need to do? Making a bold commitment and embracing that, hey, I have to do something. Making a commitment, okay, I want to be by 2035, 2040. What are the numbers are depending on the organization? I want to be carbon neutral or net zero or aiming for a net zero. I mean, the way I would put it, getting to net zero may be very challenging. Aiming to get to a near net zero, the commitment needs to be there. Then that needs to be part and parcel of the key leadership messages, and they need to start tracking internally what they're doing to achieve that, correct? One is saying, other is actually execution. So an allocation of funds and budgets is going to be equally important in terms of embracing this change and engaging with the right organizations such as Honeywell who can help you in this journey, correct? So that's going to be very critical in terms of making commitment, making a plan, and also having a team, a dedicated team that's focused on this, because otherwise you're always going to be dragged on to the day-to-day job. And this becomes a side note or a kind of hobby. So having a dedicated team focused on that with a goal that, hey, I have to do A, B, C items to get to a more sustainable organization, I think that is going to be critical.
Well, Ravi, I want to thank you for your time today. We're just about nearing the end of our time together. Do you have any last comments for our audience today?
Yeah, I think this is the most exciting thing. I've been working in the industry, as I mentioned, for the last 33 years in different parts of the world. I think this is possibly the biggest thing that I've seen, the biggest opportunity for the mankind. And also, it's a great opportunity to relook at the way we do things and make our planet more sustainable as well. So, but I think we are on the right journey. Of course, speed is always the key, and speed and scale is going to matter a lot. But I do see with all the technologies and the way the companies are working together to address this, I think this is probably we are in the right time to make this happen. And hopefully people are committed to, towards a greener future and so that the future generation can live on this planet, more peacefully as well.
Well, thank you, Ravi. Again, our guest today on the Sustainability Podcast has been Ravi Srinivasan, Vice President, General Manager, Emissions Management at Honeywell Connected Enterprise. Ravi, thank you again.
Thank
you.
We
look forward to seeing all of our esteemed audience on our next episode of the Sustainability Podcast. See you again soon.
Thank you, Jim. Really pleasure talking.